Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and to this day, we do not have the BFA Alpha on the channel. Sad days, but at least we have YouTube and live streams and footage of the new Warfronts. Now, I initially came into Warfronts with a mind process of, okay, so you're talking about Alliance vs. Horde content that's not PvP? Sounds like a missed opportunity, Blizzard. I was hoping Warfronts would be a new Tol Barad for us, a objective that we could fight over, but Blizzard stuck to their guns, and this is PvE content, but of a different fashion. After watching a couple live streams and a few videos back to back, I actually feel like it turned around on the idea of Warfronts, and I found 5 things that I find mildly exciting about them. So if you're somebody like me who started out World of Warcraft as a die-hard PvP fan, hear me out. Watch this video. Here are my 5 points of why I think you should care about Warfronts, and then let me know all that in the comments below. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, the first thing is, I started out with World of Warcraft universe back with Warcraft 3. I was still a kid in Russia, and I got introduced to Warcraft 2, learned about Warcraft 1, never really got around the story, but I love the idea of watching the orcs and the humans clash together in the middle. For Warcraft 3 custom version, I could make my own maps. You could choose where you want to place NPCs. You could just put them all together. The Alliance and the Horde fighting each other. Siege engines, archers, mages, warlocks, and warriors down the middle. And that was something I enjoyed when I was younger. Playing through the campaign, it was pretty awesome seeing the Alliance and Horde and how they were, they were designed, how they were thematically different, the stories, the backgrounds, and the reasons behind both of the factions, and the reason for them to hate each other just fueled the fire to watch them fight each other even more. So in a way, Warfronts does scratch that itch of Warcraft 3, the strategy RTS, except instead of controlling the NPCs, you are the NPC. You are part of this bigger world, of this bigger plan, and I really like that aspect. I really like that concept, so for me, I feel like it draws on that specific nostalgia that I currently enjoy. So if you're someone who was a fan of the strategy game of Warcraft, I feel it would be kind of fun to put yourself in the shoes of the peon or of the warrior, of the berserker, or maybe of the shaman sitting in the back healing your teammates. It's kind of fun seeing your character in the middle of the battle. Instead of seeing the whole action from a bird's eye view, you are participating in the game and helping the turn of tide in this massive large-scale battle. Second thing that I like about Warfronts is the fact that there are rewards behind the system. As somebody who used to play World of Warcraft primarily for PvP, I never really cared about the PvE mechanics. I felt that they weren't all that interesting, but the rewards definitely are worth, and I found PvE content in Legion to be a hell of a lot more rewarding with gear and all than PvP aspect of the game, which just rewards you item level and various random stats that you cannot really use effectively anywhere else. With Warfronts, you have their own reward. Whether it's cosmetic or actual gear, you'll be able to achieve Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 pieces of gear for both Horde and Alliance as cloth, leather, mail, and plate, which actually look pretty great. I like the fact that there are rewards, and somebody who's been playing Legion and tried all aspects, from dungeons to raids to PvP, I'm somebody who found myself playing a lot more aspects of World of Warcraft than just the PvP part of it. So Warfronts with its own rewards allows me even more things to do and even more things to earn as I play the game in BFA. The third thing I noticed, and what I liked about Warfronts, is how they utilize the zone. So the Battle of Stormguard is actually just Arathi Highlands, with Stormguard Keep being the main keep for the Alliance. I'm not really sure exactly how Alliance is going to play through this. I guess the Horde would take over Stormguard Keep and you would fight over it. But with the way it was laid out for the Horde scenario, that whole zone looks absolutely beautiful. And that's something I simply just didn't notice up until I looked at the zone itself. All the Legion-esque, the BFA-esque, high-res textures, and even some changes. The trees, the actual castle itself, and everything in between absolutely look great. They utilized even some of the assets from Warlord's General, all the pretty ones, and stuck them into Arathi Highlands, making this place look absolutely amazing. I really like what they've done with it, and it makes me wonder if in the future they'll apply this kind of similar skin tone towards Arathi Highlands as a questing zone, as it was one of my favorite questing zones because it was probably the first time I died when I originally leveled in Kata. I ran to Stormguard Keep and invisible mobs just started attacking me, so then I died and went down to Falder's Cove and had fun doing a pirate themed quest line over there, almost down on that quest as well. I absolutely love the way it looks, and makes me wonder what else is Blizzard going to do and how they're going to shape and change all the other vanilla zones that we'll be fighting over in Warfronts. And it simply makes me wonder what else is there to come, and if they'll eventually apply those new skins that we see in Warfronts into the current vanilla zones that we used to level in. Number 2, there's simply more PvE content. I guess I stated that earlier with unique rewards, but I like there's more content to do in BFA. They're trying to shape the expansion in an interesting way, instead of just introducing another set of Mythic Plus dungeons, which are pretty popular, another set of raids, which I think have existed since the beginning of World of Warcraft, and another set of PvP rules, as well as the new zones to explore. They're actually adding a lot more of us to do. A lot of people complain that, let's say for the Horde and Alliance, whether you're with the Zandalari or with Kultiran, technically by the time you end up leveling, you only have 3 zones to take a look at as you level throughout the whole place. Yes, you get to utilize the other faction zones for a few world quests, but we're not exactly sure just how much there will be, so a lot of people are wondering, well, where is the content? And I feel like Warfronts adds a little bit of that extra content, because it'll give you a space where you can do world quests in, it'll be a whole scenario that you get to play with other players, and the actual content itself adds a little bit to the gameplay. In terms of PvE content on its own, it's not quite predictable like a raid or a Mythic Plus dungeon, since there's no real boss with real boss mechanics like you would see in a raid. But there are bosses that function in different ways. There are NPCs that function in different ways. In a sense, the NPCs don't really function like players, but rather they function to help each other out. Let's say you have a mage, and the mage is going to be polymorphic targets that are popping cooldowns. I've also been told that healers will be prioritizing targets that are lower in health and will be utilizing distance as well as positioning in order to get themselves the best vantage points not to be seen by players. Of course, you'll have the hunter NPCs that will try to get away and will try to peel for the healers if ever healers are in trouble, and of course there's going to be a boss NPC. So these are bosses and adds and all these mechanics, but they're not quite like a raid. They're not structured. There's a little bit extra flexibility to it all. And at the same time, while there's a lot of, I guess, unpredictability, it's not completely chaotic. So it's to the point where players can group together and understand what they need to do in this content. So it has its own place. It has its own viability. I guess we'll just have to see just how good of PvE content this will be down the line BFA. And then finally, the best part, which I think is something that Blizzard is utilizing for an umbrella term for just about every aspect of BFA, but is the replayability. Like the islands, the Warfronts are going to have a high amount of replayability. You might be able to queue into the same Arathi Highlands battle where you fight the Stormguard Keep as a Horde character maybe 3-4 times in a row, but the first time you might be fighting against humans, and the circumstances might be in one way. Next time you queue up, now it's dwarves, and they'll function and perform and fight in a completely different manner than what the humans do. Let's say next time you do it again, and now it's a bunch of Kultirans and Worgen, or really anything the Blizzard wants to throw in there. We don't really know just how many different options we'll have. I'm hoping at least maybe 3 or 4, maybe at best 5. So this allows you to play through Battle of Stormguard more than once and have a different outcome, or at least a different experience, even though slightly, every single time. The amount of enemies you'll be fighting might be different, their tactics could also be different, so then the content stops being stale. It doesn't feel like the same old thing that you've done multiple times. It's not the same world quest, it is not exactly the same dungeon, it has a few twists and turns, and keeps it from being too boring and too tiresome in my opinion. I actually like that idea, and I guess we'll just have to see just how good this aspect is in BFA. I personally haven't been able to play anything myself, but I like the idea of replayability of content. Yes, it's exactly the same dungeon, yes, it's exactly the same mobs, yes, it's exactly the same setting, but the circumstances are different. And I'm hoping that keeps the longevity of the game further and further and further as we go on into BFA. And those are the things that I found exciting. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Are you convinced yet, or do you still think Warfronts are kind of lame and kind of boring? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Have you guys seen any? What are you excited about? What are you really not excited about? Besides that, I'm actually kind of looking towards Warfronts. I'm trying to look at the game again positively. I can't really find anything I dislike about Warfronts except what I've said in the past. I think they're going to be pretty great though. If you treat them just as a PvE content rather than, oh, possibility of what could have been a great PvE content, which I still think it could have, I think Warfronts could actually be pretty great. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see all of you in another video.